The red carpet glittered under hundreds of flashing cameras. Sandra Bullock walked beside Keanu Reeves, smiling for the crowd. Both had done this countless times before, yet tonight felt different. Maybe it was the way fans screamed their names, or the quiet tension between them that no one else noticed. As they waved, a young woman pushed through the crowd and reached for Keanu's hand. Her voice trembled as she said she had traveled from another country just to see him. Keanu, being the humble soul he always was, gently took her hand and thanked her warmly. But for a split second, Sandra's smile faded. She felt something strange, an emotion she couldn't name. Inside the theater, the music roared. Sandra sat beside Keanu, pretending to scroll through her phone, but her mind wasn't calm. She remembered the girl's teary eyes, how Keanu's kindness always melted people's hearts. She loved that about him, but tonight it made her heart ache. Keanu noticed. His eyes softened as he whispered, asking if she was all right. She laughed it off, saying she was just tired. But her voice lacked its usual warmth. Keanu didn't push. He just gave a small smile, the kind that spoke volumes without words. Later, during interviews, journalists kept asking about their chemistry. One even joked that Sandra looked jealous when the fan hugged Keanu. The crowd laughed. Sandra did too, but something inside her stirred again. Jealousy wasn't something she wanted to admit, not even to herself. After the event, they sat quietly in the car. City lights passed by in streaks of gold and blue. Keanu finally broke the silence. He said softly that fame could make people forget who they truly were. He told her that fans weren't a threat. They were reminders of the journey that brought them here. His calm tone made her chest tighten. She looked at him, really looked at him. In that moment, she realized her feelings weren't about jealousy at all. They were about fear. Fear of losing something unspoken between them. But before she could reply, Keanu's phone buzzed. His expression changed. A message popped up on the screen, one that would soon turn their peaceful ride into something far more complicated. The message on Keanu's phone glowed in the dim car light. Sandra leaned slightly, curious, but stopped herself. Keanu's calm face shifted into quiet concern. He locked the screen and stared out the window, his jaw tightening. Sandra sensed the change. She asked if everything was all right. Keanu hesitated before answering. He said it was just an old friend reaching out, nothing serious. But Sandra could hear the small pause in his voice. The kind of pause that meant there was more to the story. The car slowed near a quiet street corner. Keanu asked the driver to stop for a moment. He needed air. Stepping out, he leaned against the railing, the cool night breeze brushing his hair. Sandra followed, her heels clicking softly against the pavement. The street was calm, far from the red carpet chaos. She stood beside him without speaking. After a long silence, Keanu said that the message was from a woman he once knew, someone he had helped years ago. She had been going through hard times, and tonight she texted him, saying she wanted to see him again. Sandra felt her heart sink a little. She didn't speak immediately. Instead, she asked why that message bothered him so much. Keanu smiled faintly and said he wasn't sure. Maybe because he feared it might reopen something he had closed long ago. There was honesty in his voice, but also distance. Sandra looked at him under the streetlight, her eyes reflecting quiet confusion. She wanted to ask more, but she knew Keanu's silence was his way of processing pain. As they drove again, neither spoke. The city lights blurred through the window, mirroring Sandra's thoughts. She remembered how people always called Keanu the kindest man in Hollywood. They were right. But behind that kindness, she sensed a deep loneliness. When they reached the hotel, Sandra thanked him for the night, her tone polite yet distant. Keanu noticed. Before she entered the lobby, he called her name. He said softly that some things from the past still hurt. But they never change how he feels about the people who stand beside him now. That one line hit her harder than she expected. She smiled faintly, her heart softening again. Yet as she stepped into the elevator, her phone vibrated. An unknown number had texted her a strange message. It said, "You think you know him, but you don't. Ask him about Anna." Her hands froze. She stared at the screen, unsure whether to laugh or panic. The elevator door closed slowly, and her reflection stared back at her, filled with questions she wasn't ready to face. The elevator rose quietly, but Sandra's heart raced. The message repeated in her mind like a whisper she couldn't silence. Ask him about Anna. Who was Anna, and why did someone want her to know? Inside her suite, she paced back and forth. The city glittered beyond the glass window, but she felt trapped in her own thoughts. She tried to convince herself it was just a prank. After all, Keanu had always been honest and gentle. He wasn't someone who played games. Still, curiosity burned inside her. She opened her laptop and searched the name Anna KeanuReeves together. Hundreds of results appeared, some old photos, some rumors from years ago. One headline caught her eye. Keanu Reeves seen comforting Anna during a difficult time. Sandra clicked it. The image showed Keanu beside a woman with kind eyes, her face pale with sadness. The article said she was a film assistant who had lost someone close to her. Sandra's chest tightened. Maybe that was the woman who texted him tonight. She closed the laptop, feeling foolish for doubting him, yet unable to shake the feeling that something was hidden behind his silence. The next morning, they were scheduled for an early interview. Sandra arrived first, dressed perfectly but lost in thought. When Keanu entered, he greeted her with his usual calm smile. The warmth in his voice should have comforted her, but now it only deepened her confusion. During the interview, the host praised their bond, calling them Hollywood's quiet magic. Sandra smiled on cue, but her mind was elsewhere. Every time Keanu laughed, she wondered what pain hid behind that sound. Every time he looked at her, she wondered if he sensed her doubt. Afterward, Keanu suggested coffee at a small cafe near the coast. They sat by the window, watching waves crash under the morning sun. Sandra finally gathered courage. She asked softly, "Who is Anna?" Keanu froze for a moment, his hand stopping mid-stir over his coffee. Then he sighed deeply. He said Anna was someone he once helped through grief. She had lost her husband in a car accident. He had stayed in touch for a while, trying to be supportive, but eventually drifted away when she began to rely on him too much. Sandra listened quietly. She wanted to believe that was the whole truth. But his eyes carried guilt. Gentle, quiet guilt. When she asked why the woman messaged him now, he admitted she was struggling again and wanted to meet him that evening. The moment hung heavy between them. Sandra didn't know what to say. She nodded, pretending it didn't bother her. But as they left the cafe, a man in a black cap sitting nearby lowered his phone, having recorded their entire conversation. Sandra didn't notice him, but that video would soon spread online, twisting their story into something neither of them expected. By evening, social media was burning with rumors. Short clips from the cafe spread everywhere, showing Keanu and Sandra in what looked like a tense conversation. Captions read things like, "Keanu hiding his past?" and "Sandra confronts him over another woman." Sandra sat in her hotel room, scrolling through the chaos. Her heart sank as she saw the comments. People were guessing, mocking, inventing stories that weren't true. She felt both angry and helpless. Fame had always come with noise, but this time it felt personal. Her phone rang. It was Keanu. His voice was calm but heavy. He asked if she was all right. She said she was fine, but he could hear the pain behind her words. He said he was going to meet Anna that night, not to explain himself to the world, but to make things right. Sandra hesitated, wanting to ask him not to go, yet she stayed silent. She didn't want to sound possessive. After he hung up, she sat alone, staring at the window. Rain began to fall, the city lights turning blurry through the glass. She whispered to herself, wondering if kindness always came with pain. Meanwhile, Keanu arrived at a small diner on the edge of the city. Anna was already there, wearing a faded blue coat. Her eyes looked tired, her smile forced. She thanked him for coming. He said he couldn't ignore her message because she had once trusted him when no one else did. As they spoke, Sandra's phone buzzed again. Another unknown message appeared. "You shouldn't let him go alone. Not tonight." Her pulse quickened. She didn't know who was sending these, but something inside her told her to move. She grabbed her coat and ran out into the rain, calling for a taxi. At the diner, Keanu and Anna talked quietly. She confessed she had never stopped missing her husband and blamed herself for his death, she said. Seeing Keanu on screen reminded her of the hope she once had. She looked desperate, her voice trembling as she said she didn't know how to go on. Keanu reached across the table and held her hand gently, telling her that life had a strange way of healing when kindness stayed alive. His words were calm, sincere. Anna smiled weakly. But outside, a figure stood near the window, taking photos through the glass. Flashes flickered like lightning in the rain. Sandra's taxi stopped nearby. She saw the scene through the glass and froze. From her angle, it looked like Keanu holding Anna's hand tenderly under soft light. Her breath caught and tears filled her eyes. She turned away, heartbreaking before the truth could reach her. Keanu never saw her. Inside, he was trying to comfort a woman drowning in grief. Outside, another woman was walking away, feeling betrayed by the one man she trusted most. And as Sandra's car disappeared into the rain, another flash went off, one that would soon turn their lives upside down. The next morning, the world woke up to a storm of headlines. Keanu Reeves caught holding another woman's hand. One article screamed. Another wrote, "Sandra Bullock leaves hotel in tears after secret meeting." The pictures were everywhere. Keanu and Anna in the diner, Rain outside, his hand over hers. No one knew the truth, but everyone had an opinion. Sandra's phone didn't stop ringing. Her team begged her not to respond, to stay silent until things cooled down. But silence hurt more than the rumors. She felt betrayed not just by what she saw, but by what she didn't understand. Keanu, on the other hand, avoided the media completely. He stayed quiet, refusing to defend himself. To him, explanations were useless in a world that loved drama more than truth. Yet deep down, he knew Sandra was hurting, and that broke him more than the headlines ever could. 3 days passed before they finally met again. Sandra was on a movie set, sitting quietly between takes when Keanu walked in. The crew froze, pretending to stay busy. Their eyes met, and for a moment everything else disappeared. She spoke first. Her voice was steady but cold. She asked if what she saw was true. Keanu looked at her for a long time before answering. He said no, it wasn't. He explained how Anna was broken, how she had needed someone to remind her that kindness still existed. He told Sandra he would never disrespect her, not even in silence. Her anger softened, but her eyes filled with tears. She said she wanted to believe him, but the world had already painted their story in another color. Keanu walked closer, lowering his voice. He said the world could say what it wanted. But what mattered was what they knew inside their hearts. Sandra looked at him quietly, remembering every act of kindness she had ever seen him do, every humble smile, every gentle word. Maybe this was the same man she had doubted, the same man the world misunderstood. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. She told him she didn't care about the world anymore. She just wanted honesty. He stepped closer and placed his hand over hers, just like he had done in the diner. But this time, it wasn't for the world to see. Before either could say another word, a loud crash echoed outside. A car had hit the gate near the set entrance. People screamed and ran toward it. Sandra and Keanu followed. To their shock, it was Anna's car. The door was open, and she was unconscious inside. Rain began to pour again, soaking everything in moments. Keanu rushed forward, pulling her out, shouting for help. Sandra stood frozen, her mind spinning. Everything that once felt like jealousy now turned into fear and guilt. She whispered his name, trembling as paramedics arrived. Keanu looked back at her, his face pale, his eyes full of something she had never seen before. Pure, quiet heartbreak. The ambulance lights flashed red and white against the wet pavement. Rain kept falling hard, soaking Keanu's shirt as he held Anna's hand inside the ambulance. Sandra stood nearby, silent, her mind numb. Everything had changed in a heartbeat. Keanu climbed in beside Anna, refusing to leave. His calm voice tried to comfort her, whispering that help was coming, that she would be fine. Anna's eyes fluttered weakly. She whispered something that broke Sandra's heart even from a distance. She said she never wanted to hurt anyone, she just wanted to say goodbye. At the hospital, doctors worked quickly. Keanu waited in the corridor, his face hidden behind his hands. Sandra arrived moments later, bringing him a dry jacket. She didn't speak, just placed it over his shoulders. He looked up, his eyes red, and whispered a soft, "Thank you." Hours passed before the doctor came out. Anna was stable but deeply shaken. She had tried to end her life after reading the hateful comments online about the photo. She had blamed herself for ruining his image, for becoming the reason behind another scandal. Sandra felt tears stream down her face. Fame had turned something kind into something cruel. Keanu stood still, breathing slowly, fighting the weight of guilt pressing on his chest. He asked if he could see her. The doctor nodded. Inside the quiet room, Anna lay pale and weak. Keanu sat beside her, his hand resting gently on hers. He told her she had nothing to be sorry for, that people could be cruel, but kindness never lost its worth. His voice trembled as he promised her that no story, no headline would ever define the truth again. Sandra watched from the doorway, tears in her eyes. At that moment, she saw the man she had loved in silence for years, not the movie star, not the headline, but the human being who chose compassion even when the world misunderstood him. When Keanu stepped out, she walked toward him. Neither spoke for a while. Then she said softly that she finally understood. She said his heart wasn't something to own, it was something to learn from. Keanu smiled faintly, his eyes gentle and full of gratitude. Days later, Anna recovered and moved to another city to start fresh. The scandal slowly faded, replaced by a new story, one about forgiveness, courage, and kindness. Sandra and Keanu appeared together at a charity event, smiling genuinely this time, not for the cameras, but for life itself. As they walked off stage, Sandra whispered that maybe the world needed to see not perfect people, but people who cared despite the noise. Keanu nodded and said quietly, "That's the only truth worth keeping." They looked at each other, a shared peace between them. No jealousy, no doubt, just respect. And something deeper that words could never fully describe. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds. The rain had finally stopped,